Ladies and gentlemen, gather around because we have got some news for you that will knock your socks off. The cat's out the bag on Cardi B, and it's diss to her being. Did you know that Cardi B doesn't want her own daughter to listen to some of her music? It's a shocking revelation, and it begs the question, why promote something to others that you wouldn't want for yourself or your own family? This is just one example of the hypocrisy that plagues the music industry, where artists promote singleness and lack unity while they themselves have significant others. So what does this all mean for the state of hip-hop and the messages being conveyed to its listeners? Join us as we delve deeper into this topic and uncover the truth behind Cardi B's disturbing revelation. If you are new here, please subscribe to our channel now and get the latest updates. Let's start. It's a shocking revelation and raises some interesting questions about the messages being conveyed in hip-hop today. While artists like Cardi B promote certain lifestyles and behaviors in their music, they don't necessarily want those same things for their own families. It's a form of hypocrisy that's becoming all too common in the music industry. But Cardi B's troubling revelations don't stop there. As she herself has admitted, she used to have sex for money and even drug and robbed men. It's a disturbing past that seems to have been overlooked by the industry in favor of her talent. And while we're not here to pass judgment, we think it's important to question the messages promoted by some of our favorite artists. One thing that sets hip-hop apart from other genres is its ability to serve as a platform for social and political commentary. But in recent years, it seems that the emphasis has shifted away from these important topics and towards more superficial ones. And while there's nothing wrong with celebrating beauty and grace in hip-hop, we do think it's important to have role models for young women who represent more than just their physical appearance. It's no secret that the genre has become increasingly sexualized over the years, and it's left many of us wondering what happened to the powerful messages of self-respect and pride that used to be at the forefront. In the early days of hip-hop, female artists like Lauryn Hill and Queen Latifah were celebrated for their messages of unity and self-love. They were role models for young women who wanted to be more than just sex objects. But as the genre evolved, so too did its messages. Lil' Kim and others like her became popular for their explicit lyrics and sexually charged performances. And while some saw this as a form of empowerment, others saw it as a dangerous influence on young minds. This is a topic that hits close to home for many of us, and it deserves our attention. As one of our guests pointed out, sex is a powerful force, and when it's used incorrectly, it can have serious consequences. We need to be careful about how we portray sex in our music, especially for young listeners who may not have the maturity or life experience to understand the full implications of what they're hearing. But that's not to say that there isn't room for sexuality in hip-hop. As our guest pointed out, artists like Patra found a way to incorporate their sexuality into their music without sacrificing their self-respect or their message of empowerment. It's possible to be sexy and still be a role model for young women, and we need more artists who are willing to explore that middle ground. When sex is used in the wrong way, it can lead to addiction, molestation, rape, and other negative outcomes that can have a lasting impact on individuals and society as a whole. This is why it's so concerning that women in hip-hop are over-sexualizing themselves and promoting messages that can be harmful to young minds. While there's nothing inherently wrong with celebrating sexuality in music, it's important to do so responsibly and with a message of empowerment, not degradation. Artists like Lauryn Hill are great examples of how to promote positive messages without resorting to sexual exploitation. They have a sound mind and a sense of self-respect that doesn't rely on objectifying their bodies. Unfortunately, not all artists share this approach, and the industry as a whole is guilty of promoting messages that can be damaging to young women. This is why it's so concerning to hear that Cardi B doesn't want her own daughter listening to her explicit songs. While we applaud her for recognizing the potentially harmful impact of her music, it's hypocritical to promote these messages to others while shielding her own child from them. It's a sign of the larger problem in the industry, where artists are willing to promote messages that they don't necessarily believe in themselves. As a society, we've become accustomed to seeing Cardi B as a symbol of empowerment and success. Her music and her image promote a message of sex and power. And yet, we've chosen to overlook her admission of being a former prostitute and drugging men for money. But let's not forget that her music is played on the radio, where children as young as 14 are listening on their way to and from school. We've normalized the idea that sex is power, but it's a dangerous message that leads to burnout and powerlessness. And while we're on the topic of children, let's talk about the recent controversy surrounding Zaya Wade and her gender transition. While the LGBT community is making strides toward equality, we must remember the societal standards that allowed for the enslavement of Black people and the use of racial slurs for hundreds of years. Society has a way of making abnormal things appear normal, and if we're not careful, we'll continue to allow the normalization of things that go against our values and morals. But what works for rich people like Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade doesn't necessarily work for poor or middle-class Black families. Children cannot decide their parents' economic situation, and social issues like getting home or getting proper education must be addressed before even considering children's transitions. The legacy of Malcolm X is still being fought for today, with his family suing the CIA, FBI, and the New York Police Department for concealing key evidence related to his murder. His absence changed the trajectory of his children's and his wife's lives, and America must pay for that. What's even more concerning is the negative portrayal of the black male image in the media today. It's perpetuating harmful stereotypes and breaking down positive role models. It's time to have a diverse representation of black men in the media, showing positive examples and breaking down these stereotypes. The media's intentional action of keeping the black man standing alone and away from the representation of the black woman by his side furthers the agenda of white supremacy. They want to create an image that suggests black men are not protectors or lovers of black women. This is a significant issue, and we need more diverse images of black men in media. Let's take the example of Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, and his recent move from Jackson State to Colorado. White supremacy is at play here, making long-term decisions that harm the black community for far too long. Sanders' move to Colorado is just another example of this. Many people don't realize that Sanders was making a significant impact at Jackson State, changing the trajectory of recruiting for HBCUs. White people are willing to pay any amount of money to ensure the black community does not progress. It's a deliberate attempt to keep the black man isolated and alone, separating him from his family and community. As we wrap up, we want to ask our viewers, how can we push for more diverse representations of black men in media? How can we fight against harmful stereotypes and promote positive role models? And finally, how can we continue dismantling the larger oppression system that harms the black community? We hope you've enjoyed this episode and encourage you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to follow us on social media and tune in for our next episode. Thanks for watching.